Who is John Blas?
Just your average Joe. Really just your average Joe. Me, you, everybody you know. Everybody's got a secret. Everybody's got a story to tell. But John Blas, primarily it's about me. Things I've done. The shit I've been through. We can all relate to John Blas. John Blas is a name that is compacted from different names. It goes back to my parents. My mom's name is Edna, and my dad's name was Blas Anthony Oliveras. My mom was told she wasn't able to have kids. She tried. Many doctors couldn't have kids. So she decided, talking to my dad, she decided to adopt a child. She really, really wanted to raise a child. And she was about 35 years old. Now, we're not talking about now, because now they got so much technology. You could be 60 years old and a woman and have a child. But back then, after 35 years old, your chances of having children were dwindling down. So she had a friend, lived across the street. She had a friend that worked across the street at the daycare. And her friend was Colombian. And she decided, to tell my mom that, well, you can go to Colombia and you can adopt. My mom was ecstatic. She brought it to my dad's attention, and my dad was like, okay, let's do it. So they flew down to Colombia. They found an orphanage that was close to or in the town of Manizales, and sat my mom down with a stack of pictures of children that were eligible to be adopted. My mom didn't look at the stack of pictures. She took the first picture and handed it to the lady and said, that's the one I want. So they started doing the paperwork. Long story short, they were happy. And sometime from that moment till they got back to the United States or whatever, they made love. And shortly after, my mom found out she was pregnant. So when the baby arrived from Colombia, they named him Blas Anthony Jr. So the name Blas stems from my father and my brother, senior and junior. And then I was born, and they named me John. So there goes the name John Blas. It's about me and my brother, who I consider the reason why I'm here. And that's how the name John Blas got here. Your average Joe, anybody you see walking down the street is considered your average Joe, because there's so many people that you don't know. You don't know them, so they're just considered an average Joe. Somebody not special enough, or somebody who's not in the spotlight, somebody who's not a celebrity is just considered your average Joe. But in all actuality, I don't think anyone is an average Joe. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone. You've been through some things. I've been through some things. We've all been through some things. We've seen things. We've participated in things. We've made wrong decisions. We've made right decisions. We've dealt with our decisions. And so when it comes to John Blas, I put it underneath that name of the things that I've been through. My mom passed when I was 13 years old. I had a good friend that we told everybody we were brothers. I'm not talking about my brother, not Blas. I'm talking about a good friend that I had, and we told everybody that we were brothers. And we did things that a lot of normal people wouldn't do. We got involved in a lot of stupid shit. And long story short, things happened. And when my mom passed, I couldn't relate to a lot of stuff, so I started experimenting. I had nobody in the house. My father wasn't around. They were split up, and I didn't have anything to grasp onto. So, in what we took to the streets. When my mom passed, I was 13 years old. By the time I was 14, I was already knee-deep into drugs. To be specific, it was cocaine at the age of 14. I kept it secret from a lot of people. A few close people knew what I was going through. One of the people was my so-called best friend at the time. And we never paid for it. We got it free because we used to bag up for somebody. And as long as we met our quota, the rest of the drugs was ours to have fun with. So at the age of 14, we was partying. We was out there. My mom was dead. My pops was out there with his girlfriend. My mom and my dad haven't been together for a while. And, you know, it was about the streets. It was about the streets. Being on drugs, hiding it, masquerading it, you know, pretending sometimes to be sick or whatever. But the one person who did see it, who really, really saw it, was one of my mom's good friend from when they were in high school. She was the principal of the high school that I went to. And like I said, I was on it for a while, and then I really got hooked up into it. I was about maybe 15 at the time. And she was the principal of Eastern District High School. And she saw me, and she knew that I was, you know, I was one of her friend's kids. And she grabbed me up and she put me into a rehab and got straightened out. She restructured my schedule. My school schedule she restructured. And I managed to graduate. And after I got my high school diploma, I went to work. I worked upstate at a camp for little kids. I saw some things I didn't like. And I tried telling the right people, but I don't know the outcome or if they pursued anything from that. I worked undercover security at Tower Records. I met a couple of people, celebrities, when they came through and stuff like that. I met one celebrity who, he wasn't a celebrity when he worked with us, but he decided to leave everything behind and become somebody, and he did. He moved to California, and he became somebody. And his name was Ron, and we used to work security together at Tower Records. Now after that, I joined the Marine Corps, and here's where we'll go. From my mom's death to the addiction, to getting clean, graduating, working. And during that time, my father came back into our lives. And we, you know, it was a rough time getting accustomed to having my dad in my life again. and I joined the military. And from the military, after the military, I had several city jobs. Now, through all these stages, I've concealed a lot from a lot of people when it came to dealing with PTSD, when it came to dealing with drug addiction and recovery, when it came to dealing with suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts, always acting strange, and it all came into play. And one outlook that I always chose, whether it was dealing with the loss of a loved one, dealing with the loss of a friend, and I've lost a lot of friends, one thing that I always did was I took pen to paper, and if I thought about it, I would write about it. When I was working as a correction officer, I spent 8 years as a correction officer behind those gates with inmates. And I sat with them many times. And a lot of them told me their stories. When I worked in the women's jail, they told me their stories. When I worked in the men's jail, they told me their stories. Dealing with drugs, gambling, addictions, murder, attempted murder, a lot of things. Opinions, politics, religion, playing chess. We did it all for 8 years. And that will, that will give you wisdom. That will give you wisdom in a short amount of time. Seeing everything that everybody's gone through. So a lot of times that I've dealt with PTSD and I've dealt with drug addiction and stuff. Oh, not to mention that during the time that I was a bus operator, I hurt my back. And the doctor, he pushed these drugs on me. And they work. But I got addicted to that too. And I was out for about over a year. And it took me almost a whole year to get off of it. I did it myself. I weaned myself off of it. And I came back to work. And I kind of consider that a victory. But during all these times, and I haven't even mentioned responding as an EMS worker to the first World Trade bombing. When I was a correction officer, I responded to the second World Trade incident, which was, as everybody knows, 9/11. We've had so many things go on. The shooting on the Brooklyn Bridge with the Hasidic kids, they got shot up. The plane from LaGuardia Airport that ran off the runway into the water. A lot of things. Kind of crazy, but how many dead babies have you held in your hands? How many times you tried to do CPR and couldn't get them back? And when you did get somebody back, you were like proud, like happy. Yeah, we saved a life. We saved a life. I've seen things that I hope none of you guys ever see. Shootings, stabbings, decapitated bodies. And that was only during a span of 7 years. That was before corrections, when I was in EMS. And a lot of that can burn you out, as it did a few of my friends that I worked with. And, you know, they committed suicide. They couldn't handle it. And every time that I would have that thought, or that I would have that feeling like I'm going to lose it, I'm going to do something stupid, let me go jump off a bridge, let me put a gun to my fucking head, let me swallow all these pills, let me stab myself, let me slit my throat, I would step back and think of a reason why I shouldn't do it. And one was my brother. After a while, it was my children. And they kept me going. But to actually succeed in overcoming it, I would write. And I would write and write and write and write and write. And over the years, I've written a lot, to the sum of about 350 poems. And so what I did was, I just took all the poems and I decided to print them and put them in book form. I want to put them out there so people can read them and see maybe it's an outlet that they can do if they're feeling down, or if they're feeling like they can't go on, or if they're in recovery, or if they're trying to get over a traumatic experience from when they was a child. To sum it up, who is John Blas? Well, John Blas is human. John Blas is a person who makes mistakes. And John Blas is somebody who's not giving up. Although we've all been through it, and I've been through it, trust me, I've been through it. But I'm human. And if I can just help one person through my words,